problem. Nobody gives a fuck. Go to therapy and shut the fuck up and have an iced caramel macchiato in that order. I'm so tired of hearing it. Goddamn.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we will discuss the narcissism of many modern women who feel entitled. We will also cover the professions where women are most likely to get divorced or cheat in a relationship, and how one woman tells us that when a woman doesn't want intimacy with a man, it's also the man's fault that she doesn't want to. We want to invite you to smash that like button, support the movement, subscribe to the channel. That's the only contribution we ask of you, man. Add your grain of sand to the movement. Share your experiences in the comments for any man who might need them. Without further introduction, let's get started.
A bride canceled her wedding and dumped her fiancé after guests refused to pay an entrance fee of $1,500 each. She explained her decision in a lengthy Facebook post, and boy was this Facebook post a ride. The woman and her ex-fiancé had saved up $1,500 for the wedding, but because their love was like a fairy tale, they wanted an extravagant, blowout wedding. She wanted to be a Kardashian for a day. They were torn between two wedding venues, but a psychic pushed them to choose a more expensive venue in Aruba that would cost around $60,000. So this couple requested that each guest give them $1,500 in cash to pay off their wedding. Because how could they have their dream wedding without proper funding? The bride didn't think this was out of line at all. Only 8 people RSVP'd to this wedding and paid the $1,500, which made this woman and her ex-fiancé livid. When it became clear they weren't going to get their dream wedding, the ex-fiancé suggested they get married in Vegas, which caused the bride-to-be to have a panic attack. The maid of honor and then slowly the rest of the bridal party dropped out of this wedding, and this woman refused to give anyone a refund. According to The Knot, the average spent on a wedding gift is about $160, not $1,500 in cash to cover an extravagant dream wedding. Guests should give gifts in the price range they can afford and should not feel pressured to spend beyond their means. What would you do if you were invited to a wedding with an entrance fee?
As always, the modern woman feels entitled. I always hear people saying that men are narcissistic, stingy, and selfish, but there's nothing more narcissistic than a modern woman. This one is a perfect example, and on top of that, a scammer. Modern women today are more focused on the wedding of their dreams for social media than on the man they're going to marry. They only think about the expensive ring they'll wear, the dress they'll buy, and where the wedding will be. Because on the wedding day, only one person marries for love, and that's the man. The woman marries for a lifestyle. Now, as a guest, if I'm told I need to give $1,500 just to watch some friends who won't last even a year, I'd rather invest it in myself and watch the wedding through photos. Only a fool does that. In this case, 8 fools were scammed because, as always, the entitled woman feels she deserves that money for wasting her time. Remember, the woman is the only being on earth who feels her time must be paid for.
I debated posting this because I know how bad it's going to be when people get this answer from me. But there were so many people that asked that I decided, after a lot of thought and consideration, that I will go ahead and respond to the most asked question from my last video, which is, what professions in women should men avoid? And a lot of you thought that those same professions for men that I told you to avoid would translate to women, and they really don't. I don't think that there's enough data out there for me to comment on that. But I've had one military female client who was pretty difficult, but other than that, I've not seen any correlation in those same professions. But I went through my case list. And if you have a problem with me giving an introduction to this, then just scroll along, because I'm about to hurt a lot of people. So I'm going to explain what I have to say. And you're going to have to listen to it if you want the answer. I went through my case list, and there's about 60 cases on my case list. And there are some common professions that I see in women. The most common one that I see is teacher. The second most common is nurse. But those cases are not cases where the female is really difficult or litigious or anything like that. They're just kind of run-of-the-mill cases. The most common profession that I see in the female parties in my divorces, and this is over 13 years of cases. Oh my God, I'm so nervous, is stay-at-home mom. Hate me. I know y'all are going to hate me, but let me explain why. Number one, when you're divorcing a stay-at-home mom, they are paralyzed with fear, and rightfully so, because their whole life is going to change. They are going to have to go back to the workforce. They're going to have to possibly move. Their finances are about to be very different. There's lots of things that they don't know financially about what's going on. And so they tend to stick their head in the sand and stall. And so the cases become very contested and very expensive. The second reason that I see that stay-at-home moms end up being the most common profession in a divorce is that I think there's a tendency, and this is completely my opinion, just based on my observations, they tend to focus so much on the children, and the husband focuses so much on career that they first of all, they don't feel appreciated by one another. But the husband starts feeling like an ATM, and the wife becomes completely focused on the children, and they tend to grow apart. So I think that's why it's the most common. That's not hate, just an observation. It's probably my last TikTok. So see ya.
This is a lawyer with 13 years of experience. Brothers. It's well known that nurses are in the top 3 careers where women cheat the most. Teachers too, and I must say professional models as well. Not the ones from that blue app because they already belong to the streets, but real professional models. But it's more common to see divorces among housewives. Let's be honest, today most men can't afford this. They will always have to work a lot. What will a woman with kids do when she doesn't see her husband for a long time? Listening to modern women on TikTok teaching her tricks, what do you think she'll do? Going to the gym where she sees more men? Or being with a gym trainer to whom she sends spicier photos than to her husband? The truth is they have to keep track of the results. In my opinion, I prefer a woman with an 8-hour-a-day job and that we share the household chores, rather than a woman who will be at home all day learning tricks. Besides, there's what the lawyer says. When you support the whole household, you feel like just an ATM because they won't appreciate anything you do for them. They will only say, "This is your duty as a man." That's why I particularly prefer we all earn our money. What do you think about this?
I fucked up
Right,
and
right.
went a different direction and realized that I fucked up pretty soon. And then what was crazy was, I've never told this story before. So I'm presenting an award, and the award was Kanye was nominated. So I see him backstage. We end up both at the Soho House, and he sat at my table, and I had my big ring on because I was married. So I'm like talking with my ring, and I talk with my hands a lot. So I'm talking, and I just see him looking at my ring, and his face would just like get heartbroken. So I sat on my hand for the rest of the dinner.
I know
and
that ring
spoke
was-
like this with one hand.
That ring was probably happy as hell when you sat on that ring, too. that ring was like, oh, shit, this is paradise.
Making another diamond.
Hell yeah. So you caught on to that, too.
I caught on to that, yeah. We look back now, and I guess him and his best friend had a convo and was like, dude, like, we're at a restaurant together. Like, she just got married 2 weeks ago. Nothing went down.
Right.
Nothing happened. But then I went to New York and started filming, and I was like, you're right. I'm miserable. I made the wrong decision.
She didn't make the wrong decision. A better match than her current one simply came along. Brothers, hypergamy, like the wall, doesn't forgive. She felt this man's interest from the beginning, and since she wanted to give him a chance, she saw her body language change when she looked at her ring. She hid it so this man would continue pursuing her. I've always said that the more interest a woman has in a man, the greater the discount will be. This woman knew who she had in front of her. She knew he was a man with a lot of money, more than her current husband. She knew she had to show respect to her husband, but she didn't want to miss this opportunity. I'm sure on her way home, she kept thinking, why the hell did I get married? That's why she divorced, because she already had a wealthier man for sure. Most women leave their men already having a replacement, especially when they are millionaire men. Until she met Kanye, she felt like a happily married woman. That's why I tell you, there's no such thing as love. When a woman has a better man, the relationship will go downhill. Everything will bother her, and she'll leave you even if you give her the moon and the stars. Remember, a woman's hypergamy doesn't forgive.
A divorced mom is refusing to go back to her maiden name after her ex-husband's new fiance complains she doesn't want to share a last name with her. The mom explained in a Reddit post that she's being called unreasonable for being unwilling to change because she doesn't want to have a different last name than her children. She says her divorce from her ex was amicable and they've always maintained a friendly co-parenting relationship. But that all changed when he got engaged to his girlfriend of 5 years who has very different ideas of how things should go now that her ring is on her finger. The new fiance doesn't want to share a last name with the ex-wife because she's intimidated by her. So the ex-husband told her she has 1 year to change back to her maiden name. And she's understandably bristling at being bossed around, especially given that her kids don't really like the new fiance and it was written in their divorce papers that her name would be her choice. And nearly everyone on Reddit agreed that the fiance needs to get over it. And so does the dad. When the mom tried to underline how absurd this all is by suggesting the kids also take her maiden name, he predictably lost it, saying that they're his kids and they should have his name. Nothing like a good old-fashioned sexist double standard. Some experts say parents keeping the same name as their kids can actually help kids adjust to the new normal of a divorce. Now, these kids are teens and the divorce was years ago, so it's unlikely to cause them much trouble now. But still, they are getting a new stepmom, which is a bit of an upheaval. And wanting to have the same name as your kids is a valid concern. But more importantly, if the wife-to-be can't even handle sharing a name with another woman, is she even ready to be married in the first place, let alone to a guy who has kids? Seems like this couple have bigger fish to fry before walking down the aisle than just a last name.
But we are the selfish ones, right? Women are more territorial than men and even more jealous. That's why I always say to carefully vet the woman you're going to marry. If your woman gets along poorly with all your children, that's a red flag. There's a saying that a man in love doesn't take advice. But your children don't love this woman. If she doesn't get along with them, something must be wrong. On this channel, we always say a man must take care of his seed. Regarding the topic of last names, in this case, I don't see the problem with both of them having the same last name. If, after the divorce, you had a healthy dynamic, which is the hardest part of a divorce, why ruin it all over a last name? The new wife is just jealous of the relationship this man has with his children and his ex-wife. If this man gave into this, what will it be like after they're married? How many things will he have to give up or do for this woman? But what do you all think? Who is wrong here?
Most women don't know what their rejection of sex means to their husbands.
Why is it that people always want to talk about what physical rejection does to men, but they never want to talk about what emotional rejection does to women? Because those two things are absolutely interconnected. And why do you want to blame women for saying no without even considering why they do? You don't seem to realize that men emotionally reject their wives every time they walk in the house without saying hello, and every time they forget to take out the trash, even though she asked him to 100 times. And when you treat your wife like she's unimportant, she obviously starts to feel like she is. And it hurts when you reach for someone's body after you've so blatantly ignored their mind. So your wife doesn't reject your advances because she wants to cause you pain. She rejects you because she's already feeling rejected by the time you ask. And I'd be willing to bet that she told you about that before, but you didn't care when it came to saving the relationship, and you're only feeling frustrated with the consequences of it because you're not getting laid now. You actually said that a lack of sex can kill a man's soul. But the only thing that's truly soul-crushing is physically forcing someone into a situation that they can't mentally stand to be in. And please don't tell me that you're capable of connecting with a woman during sex if she's counting the minutes until it's over. You're not a victim because you're not having sex, and I want to try to explain to you why. Let's say your wife is tired from making dinner, but you don't talk to her while you're eating, thank her for making the meal, or offer to clean up after it. But you do grab her hips when you walk by her doing the dishes, and then you expect her to stay up and pleasure you instead of going to bed and getting the rest she needs so that she can get up and do it all alone again tomorrow. Now, do you honestly believe that you're being punished in a marriage that's void of affection? Or do you think that you could have done something differently in order to create actual intimacy? Listen, I'm going to suggest that you don't worry about fixing your sex life, and that you worry about fixing your relationship instead. Because sex is the natural product of a healthy partnership. And you may even find something more meaningful while you're at it. But this is not it. Because if you actually cared about restoring people's relationships, then you wouldn't be trying to guilt women into having sex. And you would be encouraging couples to reconnect so that they actually want to have sex together.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
So when a woman rejects you intimately, it's because she feels rejected when you ask for it. Doesn't this remind you of the horrible phrase from movies they say to simps? It's not you, it's me? Why is it that a woman always needs to be thanked for everything she does? If a woman cooks, thank her. If a woman does the laundry, thank her. If a woman raises her own children, thank her. Do you know how many men spend up to 20 years working, fixing things around the house, paying all the bills, keeping the household afloat, and their wives never say, "I'm proud of you"? On the contrary, if you don't thank her for what she does because she has to do it every day, she'll forbid you from touching her. Or there will be a dead bedroom. Or she'll send you to the guest room. But it's also your fault, by the way, that she doesn't want you. Because you don't deserve gratitude for going to work 40 or 50 years of your life so that she and your kids have food on the table. When you try to be affectionate, she'll condition sex, or worse, she'll do it with you with a look of disgust, hurrying you to finish so she can just go to sleep. But the man is the bad guy for not thanking her for that too, right? We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. What other entitlement do you think modern women believe they have? Have you ever been in a relationship where intimacy was conditioned? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from The Wall.